Welcome back, Buccaneers fans, to another episode of Here the Cannons, presented by BucsGameday.com. I am your host, Caleb Skinner, at CHS Knoll on X, formerly known
And
as
I'm not.
You're what?
I'm not.
You're not. Yeah, you're not Caleb Skinner.
No,
You're
no.
River Wells, our lead
There we
editor
go. Yes.
at BucsGameday.com, at River H. Wells on X, formerly known as Twitter as well. River, we've got some good stuff coming up. We're finally into the thick of things, if you will. Pads have come on. We've started to see some hitting. We've started to see some reports of things coming out. We've seen the injuries, of course, happen along that as well. And then there's some big major moves that we've been able to see come through for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, mostly in regard to the backup quarterback position. And we'll get in that a little bit later, guys. But before we get going, if you are watching anywhere other than on YouTube, please head over there and click that subscribe button, click that like button. It really tremendously helps us get all this content out to you guys as best as we possibly can. River and our founder, Logan Robinson, have been doing daily just about training camp, post-training camp practice previews or reactions, however you want to call it, each and every day.
They're all of those things.
They're all those things. You just bundle them into one. You know, bundles are a big thing these days in the retail community. So truly appreciate you throwing that out there for sure. But yeah, head over to Bucs Game Day in that search bar on YouTube, Bucs Game Day, and you'll be able to find all those instant reactions following training camp practice that they've been doing tremendous jobs on. We really do appreciate all that you guys are able to bring. But again, head over to YouTube, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. If you guys got questions for us as we roll through this thing, if you've got comments that you just want to throw in there that you think pertains to what we've got going on, or if you guys just want to, shoot the stuff with each other in the chat as well, that's completely okay. We truly love to watch it. You might see myself or River give a nice little grin or a smirk or maybe even a chuckle you might get out of us in there.
Even a chuckle? Well, hold on. I don't know about that. That's a lot. That's a lot, Caleb. But we'll see. We'll see.
Can't ruin the momentum of talking Bucs ball, and that's what we're going to get into right now. So first and foremost, I think what's on everybody's mind is the Teddy Bridgewater signing, right? Like, that kind of came out of the blue. Nobody was expecting a move. Nobody probably in the media was expecting the Buccaneers to make a move, even with Baker dealing with his hand contusion, which ultimately the Bucs wanted more arms, with Michael Pratt dealing with his lower back injury, from what I'm aware, whatever that, pertains to. So be it. You can take your inferences from there. But they need another arm, specifically in training camp, will be good. We'll see if this carries over in the regular season. But just initial thoughts and reaction to that signing. And do you possibly see, Teddy kind of taking over that backup spot, even though Jason Light and company have alluded to Kyle Trask still owning that number 2 QB spot?
Well, one thing I think I would say is that there was a point when Pratt was hurt, even before Baker Mayfield got dinged up for 2 practices, where we asked Todd Bowles, "Are you thinking about another quarterback?" And he said, "Yeah, we are." And then after Baker got hurt, Todd Bowles made sure to be like, "Hey, he's coming back pretty soon. It's just a contusion. That's a fancy word for bruise." And that despite that, we still are looking for a quarterback. And he didn't say it would be a veteran. He just said it was going to be an arm. And Teddy Bridgewater makes a lot of sense because he was already in Miami, right?
Yeah.
He was coaching Miami Northwestern. He was suspended for giving them impermissible benefits, which included Uber rides for his kids, food for his kids, training materials for his kids.
Just a really good guy, and then he gets punched.
Yeah. So we'll probably get into that a little bit because he actually talked in depth about that to us for the first time since that suspension, actually, today. So some stuff about that. But he offers some veteran experience to the room. He makes sure that the reps stay pretty quality once he gets in and learns the playbook. Obviously, today he was suited up and doing indies, but he wasn't doing teamwork because he doesn't know the playbook. So naturally, my idea of just throwing him in to see what happens didn't really go down well. But no, he needs to learn the playbook. He needs to understand it. He was doing some work toward that today, working with some coaches, trying to get a feel for how the plays work, how the motion works, the calls are. He got to see Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask do that today during team periods. The first 2 team periods were just Baker and Kyle. There was no Connor Bazelak, and then he came in later. So he got some good looks at that, and I think it offers a veteran presence who's got a lot of experience, who can help elevate that room with what he's done in the NFL. Remember, he was a Pro Bowler back in 2015. That's 10 years ago.
He's been around for a while, man. Teddy Two Gloves.
He most certainly has. Teddy Two Gloves. And to answer your last question, I think a lot of people are asking whether or not he can push Kyle Trask for a backup job, because Kyle Trask has certainly, at least in the minds of myself and some other people that we've been talking to as we watch training camp, has regressed a little bit, right? He's darting the ball and he's less confident in the pocket as a processor, and processing was his whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's less confident there. His throws haven't been on the mark as usual. He's had some days where he's played a lot better, particularly I think the 2 days where Baker was out. He played probably some of his best football. But overall, it's been a shaky camp from him. So the question remains, can Teddy Bridgewater come in and take that backup spot? Kyle Trask knows the offense. He's played in it for the last 2 years now. That's a tremendous, tremendous advantage, basically, that he has. And it's going to be hard for Teddy Bridgewater to replicate that advantage. So I think Trask still being QB2 makes a lot of sense, but Bridgewater has more experience. He's played a lot more football. He's very smart. We talked to him today. Very smart dude, very cool dude, very chill dude. I was very impressed with him after he stepped off the podium today and some of the stuff that he talked about. So really cool stuff there, and excited to see how he works.
Yeah, it was intriguing. It happened very early in the morning. I was just like, oh, wow, like, this is awesome. Like,
yeah,
Teddy Bridgewater, like, this is great. Like, you're adding a veteran arm, a guy who knows the game very, very well. Obviously, he knows the game to a point to where he became a high school head football coach at a very prominent high school down in South Florida.
Yeah, Miami Northwestern is a big high school for football, so yeah.
Went on to win, I think, their state championship, if I'm correct.
He did.
And then proceeded to get let go, if you will, because of doing stuff for his players, his kids, if you will, that are only beneficial to them because they don't necessarily have the means to be able to do these things. And it's not like it's, oh, I'm buying them a car, I'm buying their mom a house. He's doing these little things, right, where he's like paying for them to get lunch food, paying for them to have equipment so they can actually get out of the streets of doing something negative and actually go on the football field and put their mind and their efforts towards something that's beneficial for their lives moving forward. And unfortunately, that's against the rules, which, college used to be the same way. You can't spend money doing this, that, and the other. But at some point, it's got to be like, really, like, look, like, these kids are less fortunate, obviously, especially in the area that, he's grown up in, he understands.
Well, that was going to be my point. That he told us today that he was one of these kids, right? He said, I remember how it felt to walk down the hallways of Miami Northwestern with my stomach rumbling because I didn't have enough money for food. And he said, sometimes when you walk home in certain areas, things can get a little dangerous. And he says, I just wanted to keep my kids safe. So I understand the notion that if we're preventing everybody from spending money on their kids, that means you can't spend any money no matter what it is, because there are I'm sure high school coaches that have promised a lot of stuff to athletes. But like you mentioned as well, man, this is only for the benefit from what we know and what he has told us, only for the benefit of his kids. And he's someone that has made a lot of money in the NFL and been fortunate to make a lot of money in the NFL, and this is his way of paying it forward, is how he kind of explained to us. He said, I'm a father before I'm a football player, and to me, these high school kids are my sons. So really cool dude. Seems like he's got a really good head on his shoulders, and that mentality can only really strengthen the quarterback room. So I came away, when he walked up the podium, I came away very impressed with him, what we talked about, and how willing he was to both face this and say how difficult of a time it was for him with this happening. He did mention, though, as well, he said it was really always the plan to come back to football after this. So from that perspective, it seems like he was planning an NFL move even before all this happened. But now that this happened, he said the words, a lot sooner than I anticipated. He was coming back to the NFL. So the Bucs wanted him when he came out of Louisville. Jason Light admitted freely that he was behind door number 2 before they got Tom Brady. Teddy talked a little bit about that. I thought was pretty interesting. So full circle moment there. He's back in Tampa Bay, and the Bucs ended up getting him anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it's fun.
And it kind of speaks to his character. And as we all know, the Buccaneers don't, value character very low. They value it very, very highly. And just the type of person that Teddy is, and trials and tribulations he's gone through in his own personal life and his career and everything else of that, he's just going to fit right into this locker room, in my opinion. He's just going to be a leader. Doesn't have to be the starting guy by any means to be able to do that. And that's something you can't get enough of in a locker room, in my opinion. Oh, yeah. And, having him alongside some of these guys, I mean, he used to play football with Levante David going back all those years. So really good connections, great guy, an above average backup quarterback, if you will, to be able to have. He's not completing, but close to completing his NFC South swing of being a quarterback.
He just needs the Atlanta Falcons. That's the one left, and the Bucs fans don't want to hear that, though. So
yeah, no, it's what it is. It's part of being a journeyman in the NFL, and that's what Teddy is. But great, glad to have him here. I think it'll be fantastic, and yeah, the whole Trask thing, it'll kind of work itself out. I think there's no pressure on either of them at this point in their careers. And if you can have a hobby, if you're Teddy Bridgewater and your hobby is playing in the NFL as a backup quarterback while you coach a high school team, full time, that's pretty sick. It's pretty
crazy
cool
to say, oh man, this isn't working out. I guess I'll go back to the NFL.
Right. At least I got this to hang my hat on at least. But really cool. Glad that, Teddy Two Gloves is in Tampa. Think it's a perfect match. Think he'll fit in just perfectly to the locker room. But we'll keep things moving, man. There's some news came out yesterday, thanks to George Kittle. Thank you for blowing up NFL Network and everybody's social media about the ammonia packets and the smelling salts. Apparently, the NFL is going to be banning the use of those two objects. Not sure quite what the language is, but you're looking at it as, is it before? Is it during? It could probably be both in my imagination, but it directly impacts a few guys in specifically on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, Baker Mayfield, we see him get caught on camera doing it all the time before he was even, zinning there on the sideline. He was, ripping the smelling salts. There's that video of him walking out of the locker room, Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football, don't remember which one. And he's just hitting it right before he comes on the field. And Levante David today on the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams was like, every year since I got into this league, before every drive, I would take a hit of the smelling salts. So your thoughts on that? I think it's stupid. I understand why it's happening, because it can mask the symptoms of a concussion, if you will, which is the whole talking point surrounding it. But again, when somebody gets knocked unconscious on the field, what do they use these ammonia packets and smelling salts? But interested to see your take on this, Rick.
I mean, I think it's pretty interesting because at least functionally and ingredient wise, smelling salts aren't addictive, but just the sheer amount of players that we have heard talk about them. Payne Durham said it was going to be real rough for him when we talked to him. Levante David mentioned that every drive for 13 years, he has taken smelling salts. That's kind of wild to me, actually. I do agree with Baker Mayfield on the reasoning. The NFL says it's supposed to mask concussion symptoms. Baker Mayfield called it a CYA. Figure that acronym out, guys. I tend to agree with that. I don't think that really has a huge effect on sort of the misdiagnosed concussions that we have. Personally, I'm not a scientist, obviously, but that seems like a legal thing. But it is just kind of crazy that so many players seem to be incredibly reliant on this sort of thing. Let's put it this way: I take pre-workout before every workout. What if I took a scoop of pre-workout before every set? I
don't think you'd be here with us right now.
Obviously, it's just interesting to see the incredible reliance that I don't know if fans or people like myself were aware of.
Do you think it's like a reliance?
People use.
Do you think it's like a reliance, or do you think it's like a habit? Like it's just like a habit, like.
probably a habit to get you going, but I mean, every drive for 13 years, every drive, woo! I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. So they'll find a new way, and to be completely honest with you, they will smuggle them in and use them for absolute certain. But
Yeah.
I was just personally kind of surprised at how much all these NFL players have come out and been like, oh, it's, Thunder David saying it hurts my heart to see them go. Baker Mayfield saying he loves him. Payne Durham saying it's going to hurt a lot to see them go. It's just so many players are big on smelling salts, guys.
Yeah, the whole thing for that, I guess, it's like they use it to get hyped up. Like it's like something that like gives you a jolt. Like, whoo, let's go. Like, whoo, I get it. So what are you going to use in place of that? Is like, music can kind of get you in that mode. Some people meditate. Some people walk barefoot on the ground to connect themselves with the earth before the game. Shout out the offensive line. But like, what do these guys who do these salts? What are they going to do? It's going to be very interesting. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. So they'll find another way, or they'll find the same way more covertly. But that was just the interesting part to me. It was just to discover
so many
players and the reliance they have on them. So yeah,
like you would think like the normal guys, like like Baker Mayfield, like these guys who are rough, rugged, like love that type of thing, and then you hear Levante David, and you're like
everybody.
You're like, what? Good, no. But causing a big stir in the NFL. Obviously, it's going to have to make its way over to the NFLPA, so the Players Association. Right. That'll get voted on. I have a feeling it's not going to go really the way the NFL wants it to go when it comes to the NFLPA. So we'll kind of see what happens from there.
Sure, and I know teams are supplying them, so I guess it could be a matter of other teams or the individual does.
Right.
I don't know how the ruling's going to work or go. I didn't hear George Kittle's incredible rant in full. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys are watching anywhere else, head over to YouTube. We got some of our regulars in here. Christopher Cole in here saying, "Yo, what's up? What's up, Chris? Nice to see you. Glad that you're tuned in with us as always." Our fellow writer over at BucsGameday, Colin. I don't know if this is a shot or a compliment. Really, really confused on which side of it is on. But I'm guessing it's because of the hair, the slicked back hair. Old Pat Riley.
Folks, let us know in the comments if you can see it.
Yeah, let us know whether it's good or bad, Pat Riley. You let me know on that one. But thank you guys coming in, chiming in. Glenn in here saying he thinks whoever has the bigger contract between Trask or Bridgewater will end up being QE2.
I don't believe we know Bridgewater's contract at the moment. And Trask was very light. I think Trask was vet minimum, right?
Mm-hmm. But that also shows you, like, going back to that the Buccaneers were okay with Trask being the backup quarterback if they were willing to re-sign him even before having a thought of bringing in another quarterback.
Yeah. Doesn't look like it is vet minimum. It's a 1 year, $2.787 million contract. Very small contract. And we don't know exactly what Teddy Bridgewater's contract is, but we talked to him today. He mentioned, I'm just here to help the team in whatever way they need me to help them. So I don't think he particularly cares. Nor do I think he probably wants to get hit, to be honest with you. So we'll see where his role ends up.
Yeah, being a coach, you might be not as ready to take those as much as possible at this point. But great questions. If you guys have any questions, if you're watching anywhere else, head over to YouTube. That's how you get your questions up here, your comments up here, how we're able to interact with you, how you're able to interact with our other fans as well, other Buccaneers fans. You've got some guys that are in here that are regulars that really enjoy the show. So you guys head over there, shoot us a like. We shoot for about 50 every single episode, every single video that we do. So if you guys can run those numbers up, we truly, truly appreciate it. While you're at it, if you like us, hit that subscribe button, turn on those noties. You'll be notified anytime we're going live, whether it's here on Wednesday nights, instant reaction following training camp practice, regular practice, or post-game as well. We will always be doing those for you guys. So stay tuned. Stick with us at BucsGameday, and we'll continue to rock out this Buccaneers content for you. With that being said, River, let's keep things rolling here. another thing I want to touch on before we get to our training camp updates here. There's been a ton of praise going around for Emeka Egbuka. There's been talks about him being comp to Chris Godwin. Obviously, we can all see it when we're there at practice. His maturity, his polished demeanor when he's on the field, his polished route running, just the way he handles and carries himself when he's on the football field and out of the football field when he's in the locker room. Yeah. And then on top of that, you on the Up and Adams show again today, she asked everybody from Todd Bowles, Levante David, Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield, asked them all about Emeka Egbuka, and they all were just like off the rock. You know, they were just like, boom, this is who this guy is. He's going to be a pro for a long time. Where is this coming from? Let the people know where this is coming from first and foremost, and then where do you kind of see this taking him? Is it going to get to his head, or is it going to be something that he can build off of and actually reach those heights that, you know, all of his peers and pundits alike are all talking about him becoming this type of player, or honestly knocking on the door?
Well, you've seen him, Caleb, at training camp when you've been. He's very good. Ironically, the fact that we're talking about this, he probably had his worst day of camp today, but he is a rookie. The God King bleeds, as it would be. So, otherwise, he has been phenomenal. Jason Light mentions he looks like a 10-year vet. He does. He's always in the right place. His route running is extremely savvy. Whether or not you think his skill set gives him superstar potential is one thing. I think that's debatable. I think there's an incredible value to the high floor that he comes into this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team with. And I think at number 19 overall in the NFL draft, it's looking like it might be a huge benefit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We talk about Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin might not make the first part of the season. In fact, there's nothing official from the Bucs or from Jason Light or Todd Bowles that have mentioned a specific timeline, but we're getting the sense that he's going to be missing a few games.
Right.
With that sense, Emeka Egbuka slides into the number 2 wide receiver slot. Tim McMillan will be the number 3 wide receiver, and he plays a very similar game. So he's going to have to step in and produce and get right into it. And let me tell you, it's a great long-term pick once you've seen him and understand how good he is and just how he can develop. But it's a great short-term pick because remember that floor we just talked about? He's ready. He's ready to go play. He's ready to step into that role and produce. And that's a huge, huge, huge boon for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's huge for Jason Light and Todd Bowles and his coaching staff and that offense to not miss as much of a step. Now, obviously, we haven't seen him in full game time, so we can't go and say immediately he's going to be a producer. That'll even be good, right? But he looks really good. And he looks polished, and he looks like he's hanging with absolutely everyone out there. He did one-on-ones with Antoine Winfield Jr. a day or two ago and just thrashed him on some double moves. He looks excellent. I think he's going to be a stud, and I'm excited to see how he develops. You can let it get to your head, but he doesn't seem like that type of guy. He seems like he's got his head down. He knows what his role is in this offense. I think the offense has done a very good job of explaining to him exactly how he fits in it and how he's going to fit into it. And he's getting some very valuable reps with Chris Godwin out in that number 2 slot. So he's already building that chemistry, and he'll be ready to go. I think it's going to be a big for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think it's going to be really good for them when they don't have Chris Godwin. I think a lot of us were questioning the pick when it happened. None of us are questioning it now after watching him and seeing how he moves, how he plays, how he carries himself, all the praise we've seen from him. He's been the talk of the town for pretty good reason. I know we were high on Jalen McMillan last year. We did kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. But I think this is a little different. I think he looks extremely polished. I think he looks better. He's going to be really good. It's my prediction.
And you were speaking on that floor, and I think that's something that last week we had talked to Fox Sports' Greg Allman, and that's something that he had reiterated again, is that, like, I don't think you've seen, at least in Tampa, you know, a wide receiver come in with that high of a floor. Like it's almost undroppable. Like a lot of people like to say that floor can drop out at any time and, you know, whatever, but it's almost like this guy's been here for years. As Jason Light was saying, he's like been a 10-year vet. And I mean, you think about it, and if you're getting compared to Chris Godwin, great. right? Like that's fantastic because Chris Godwin is one of the better wide receivers in this league,
especially as that sort of wide slot the Bucs are going to need in this modern Sean
a guy
McVay
who's
style
reliable,
offense.
consistent, like has strong hands, make sure that he's running the right routes, knows where to sit down in zone coverage. Like, guy gets it. Guy gets it all. And you got to remember, Chris Godwin was a third-round draft pick. So, like, if the Bucs thought highly enough of a Mecca that he fits this mold of Chris Godwin to take him in the first round, he could even be better, in my opinion. Like they're seeing him as like second coming of Chris Godwin, which is really hard to find in this league. A guy that's just solid all around. You can find guys that are electric, big play guys. You can find guys who are just really good in the short game. You can find gadget guys like a Deebo Samuel, if you will. But can you find that reliable weapon that when you're in 3rd and 6 to 3rd and 8, that is going to come up, know where the sticks are at, get right to the sticks, and if he comes up short of those sticks, he's going to fight his way to get to the first down. That's something that Emeka is kind of showing.
For sure.
There's times at practice that I've seen that, Baker's kind of looked off of him. So I think a big thing is going to continue to build that trust with Baker because Baker obviously is looking for Mike. You want to get the ball to Mike. And this is training camp practice, so take this for what it's worth because Baker does like to take shots in practice, as River and I have talked about, side on a sidebar. And so he is going to be taking those shots. So he's probably not looking at a Mecca sitting right down there in the middle in a wide open space that he could pick up probably 12 to 15 yards.
Yeah.
So in a game scenario, he probably will just be like, I know a Mecca's there. I know he's going to be open. I can hit him. So that's something that I can't wait to see happen with him. But I hope the hype doesn't get too high. I don't want everybody to be like, oh, wow, like, Mecca's this. But if he plays well enough, that's what it's going to become. But yeah, I'm excited for him too. But let's continue on with the rest of these camp updates. A lot of stuff happening. Obviously, some injury news that came out. I was there on Saturday morning. We got to see an awesome catch from Bucky Irving that I wish everybody was in attendance for because it was something. It was something that a wide receiver would do, and Bucky lining up wide, which is something that I've noticed more so this offseason than last offseason with Liam Cohen, is that Bucky's being pushed out a little bit more wide this
Welcome
offseason.
To the Miami Dolphins
experience. Which used to be it used to be like what Rashad did a lot. Like I felt like Rashad was pushed out wide a decent amount last year, but now we're seeing Bucky kind of take on a role similar to that. Expand on that a little bit for me, and then we can dig into the rest of your camp updates because you are there more often than I am.
Well, that's those wrinkles that every player talks about. We ask every player, how is the offense different? And then every player says, it's not, but there's a few wrinkles. Like someone told them to say that.
But a good PR team, River.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case, but that's how it feels. But no, that's pretty interesting. And I think it's a good thing. Liam Cohen's offense was fantastic. And I think he's going to do great over there in Jacksonville, the weapons over there. He's a very good offensive mind. Josh Gazard brings that same system and that same offense to Tampa Bay, but the wrinkles, he worked with Mike McDaniel in Miami with the Dolphins, and that offense is similar. It's got a lot more movement and a lot more motion, sometimes to the point where you wonder what it's even for. But there's a lot of multiple wide receiver sets in that Miami offense. When you got guys that are fast like Devon Chan, you kind of bring them outside. Same thing here, Bucky Irving. You're going to see a lot more multiple wide receiver sets, I think, which would be interesting because there's just such a wealth of wideouts, right? I mean, Evans, Godwin when he's back, Ibuka, McMillan, Sterling Shepard, Tez Johnson's going to probably have some packages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to see a lot of maybe 4 wide receiver sets sometimes. And sometimes you can get those same looks with a guy like Bucky Irving who can pass catch, with a guy like Rachaad White who can pass catch. There's a wealth of weapons, and I think Josh Gazard might try and take a little bit from that Miami Dolphins playbook and kind of sprinkle it onto this one because there's going to be some wrinkles. And the Bucs want to get more vertical this year. They talked about it. Baker Mayfield's talked about it. Josh Gazard's talked about it. They want to be able to push the ball downfield a little bit more, and the way to do that is to get more wide receivers in the field. So be it Bucky Irving, be it Rachaad White, or be it one of the 6 trillion other wideouts that Tampa Bay has. They can really put him in there, send him upfield, send him in the intermediate zones, kind of maybe the short game too, open up the pass game. Could be some good stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Another one of our regulars here hopping in YouTube with a question here, River from D13. What can we do about these hamstrings? Obviously, we've had more come out regarding some of these injuries, a tweak here, a tweak there. Is this solely on hydration, or can we get some glucose in these guys as well? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it for sure. The hydration, the heat is absolutely unbearable. I say it every time after our after training camp and our like recaps. I'll say it again, guys. However hot you think it is, it's worse than that. So that's a part of it. The other part is that these wide receivers and tight ends and corners are just constantly running, right? Up and down the field, up and down the field, up and down the field. And as a result, that just increases your margin for injury on a hamstring to tweak it. So you do see these a little bit in camp pop up. And the thing about the hamstring is that, being how soft the tissue is, it takes a long time to recover. And then when you think you're fine and you're like, oh, I can go do it. And then you run out there and you're not fine. And it gets worse. So you just have to be obnoxiously cautious with the hamstring. Kate Otton's been out the entirety of camp with a hamstring.
It's coming up 2 weeks now.
Yeah, we don't really know exactly what his timeline is. Benjamin Morrison just tweaked his, which sucks because I want to see him play against the Tennessee Titans. Won't be able to have him do that. And Tez Johnson, we don't exactly get an exact thing for him, but Todd Bowles said he's dealing with a leg injury also, which leads us to believe it's probably a hamstring. So, yeah, water's a part of it, but it's also just the sheer amount of volume that these guys get. And Todd Bowles kind of mentioned that's why you have a lot of receivers in camp.
Yeah,
is because there's going to be those type of things, and when they happen, you got to be cautious.
Yeah, and not to mention Mike Evans deals with this about once a year. So
yes, that's true. Chronically, all the time. I think last year, I don't recall something last year. So knock on proverbial wood.
No, there was.
Was there?
Yeah, remember in what game was it? He
Oh yeah.
Caught the touchdown and then proceeded to miss 3 games.
Yes, that's pretty significant actually. That was a hamstring. Yeah. So I'm thinking of like the one game things where he's like, oh, he catches it and he holds it in the sideline and he's back to practice the next day.
Yeah.
For the viewers at home, I was completely wrong about that. But yeah, we'll see. It's just these guys, they're incredible athletes. They run so often. And it just happens. But let me tell you, if you were in the indoor facility the whole time, it would be a little bit different than maybe when you're in 85 feels like 97 at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, but then you got your own, like if you're in the IPF, there's a whole nother handful of problems that come with practicing on turf. Yeah. I'm like, I'd rather than be practicing out in the heat.
And you have to get acclimated to the heat. It becomes a weapon for you.
It becomes an advantage.
Yeah, but my goodness, does it suck getting used to that. So, I mean, we just stand out there watching them, and I feel like I got to get in shape before training camp to go stand out there.
And they're dripping beads, and we're not even doing
and they're just running. They're just running full speed, launching themselves, explosiveness, and I'm just like, oh, man, that was crazy. And grabbing the little Dasani water bottles that they give us. Shout out to the BucsCom staff for providing those little Dasani water bottles. I think that's about it with the hamstrings. Hopefully those guys can be ready by week 1. In some of these cases, they probably could play if it were a game, but it's not a game. So why would you do that?
Yeah.
They did a Hail Mary practice today and like they didn't even run. They walked it because you don't want to be like, all right, 4 guys, launch it downfield. You guys cover them, then jump up and hit each other. Like, yeah, obviously you don't.
Just begging for something bad to happen at that point. But any other takeaways that you have from training camp over these last few days that if people haven't tuned into the instant reaction or haven't been on BucsGameday.com to read about it, anything else you got to add?
I'm gonna add. This just came in from Adam Schefter. Okay, on smelling salts. Apparently, the club cannot provide smelling salts, but you can bring your own smelling salts. So
Okay.
I imagine the players will buy their own smelling salts. So that's the skinny on that. Yeah, Sterling Shepard had a good day today. We talked about it in our post training camp video. Without Tez Johnson or Mike Evans had a vet day today, so he was just chilling. He got a quadrillion targets. The race for wide receiver is going to be pretty interesting because you've got, count them, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan, and then probably we can call it, I feel confident, Tez Johnson, right? The only way Tez Johnson's like on the bubble is if like another guy runs back a kick in preseason or something. That 6-1, we think about Sterling Shepard, but Sterling Shepard has no teams ability. He doesn't play on teams.
And he's probably not going to.
Right. So what they could do is what they did last year, which was keep him on the practice squad and then use his elevations until you have to pay him, which, I mean, I'm sure he's not thrilled about that, but that means that you could keep a Trey Palmer on as the 6th man. You could keep another guy on, basically. You can keep a Rakim Jarrett on as a 6th man, right? That gives you that option. I guess you could just go 5, which would be crazy to me given how talented the room is. But I'm curious to see what ends up happening with that configuration, because they could end up bringing Sterling back to the practice squad and then playing that little bounce back game. I think you get 4, right? Until you have to be on out of elevations. So that'll be fun to see. He's looked good today. Emeka Egbuka, like we mentioned, he had 2 drops today. Jamel Dean with the sticky hands got 2 picks today.
Whoa! Jamel with 2 picks?
The first one when he picked off, it was an errant throw. And then Baker looked at him and went, "Wow, you caught it," which was pretty funny. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a fire there. And Dean's a good corner. He's always in the right place coverage-wise. It's just
his coverage is fine. There's
guys got to come down with those picks. Got to get those ball hawks. And Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean drop so many picks that it's kind of defies the statistical like math problem that he has to bring one in this time. But other than that, he's playing good, so he brought on those 2 picks.
Yeah, I mean, great to hear that Jamel Dean's hands are working, and they actually do work. Really good to know. Hopefully that upticks this season would be nice. But yeah, there's no question about Dean's coverage. I think he's probably one of the top 12 or 15 when it comes to coverage grades in the NFL at his position. So, like, he's obviously a really, really good quarterback. It's injuries and lack of turnover production. And that's really what hangs the hat on, because he does have those opportunities, but he's not, taking advantage of them at the end of the day. So some things to take away from training camp. We're getting into the thick of things. Preseason game 1, Tennessee Titans, number 1 overall pick, Cameron Ward, who the Titans have already said that he will be the starter there on Saturday night. Who else is going to be available for them? Not quite sure. I would imagine they would want to take care of Calvin Ridley, their number 1 wide receiver at this point. So you might not see too much of him, but you'll get to see Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick, in Raymond James Stadium. What are we expecting from this, River? I'm not real sure. Todd Bowles has yet to give us a final answer on what we're going to see from the Bucs. He has yet to decide on if the starters are going to get minutes. I would assume they'll get some minutes here, and then that 3rd game against the Bills, since we play them later in the year, you don't want to give too much away, so you might not see the starters playing that one. But your thoughts on what's coming up, what the Tennessee Titans are going to be able to throw at them, obviously with I think Callahan's their head coach still, so he can throw a lot of different looks at the Buccaneers defense. I know he's not going to open up the playbook per se, but he will give them a different look than what they've been seeing from Grizzard. So just interested in your thoughts on that. What are we going to see? What do you expect to happen? And so on and so forth.
Yeah, Todd Bowles said after practice on Thursday, he'd make the decision about starters playing. You mentioned it. it's the biggest wrinkle. You're not going to want to play starters in that third game because you're playing the Bills again in the regular season. Usually it's the second game typically that has the most starter activity. It used to kind of be the third preseason game out of 4. Now we only have 3. So maybe in Pittsburgh we'll see some stuff there, which would be fun. But honestly, the joint practices are more intense than the preseason game. Starters are all in. They do all have pads on, guys. They hit, and then they usually fight. So hopefully that doesn't happen tomorrow. I'm really excited for tomorrow to see just how this new secondary fares up against a team whose plays they don't know, whose playbook they don't recognize. We've talked about how good the secondary is and how good they've looked. Let's see it against Cam Ward, an inexperienced rookie. That'll be a lot of fun. The one thing I'll add is not to take it too seriously. If you guys remember, the Bucs faced off against the Jaguars in joint practice last year in Jacksonville, and they got smoked by the Jaguars in joint practice. And then, as it turned out, they were much worse than the Bucs in the regular season. So just be cautious and careful about that whole thing. But it'll be a great chance for some of these rookies to kind of prove their worth, this new revamped secondary to make a splash and maybe pick off an inexperienced Cam Ward. I am excited to see Cam Ward play. He's probably like one of the least talked about first round picks, maybe of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
that's so crazy to me because I'm very high on Cam Ward.
Are you? I'm not as high on Cam Ward.
I'm very high on him. Just
yeah,
based on the pure arm talent. Like his arm talent is. You could see it with Patrick Mahomes, right? Like Patrick Mahomes, you could tell, like that arm talent's there. I'm not gonna go to that level, but it's like it's sneaky, right? Like you don't know that his arm talent, like you don't know he can throw bombs, he can be accurate with the ball, he can do a lot with it. So his arm talent is there. Now, how is he going to develop that? How are the Titans going to develop his arm talent? How are they going to put him in the best position to succeed? To be determined. Don't get me wrong, but I'm very high on Cam Ward, the individual player, right now. Now, that's up to what Tennessee does. But yeah, I think it'll be great for the Buccaneers to start off the preseason against, especially the secondary. You know, here's a test. They're probably going to let him do a little bit early on to get him acclimated real quick. Different team. You're going up against Todd Bowles' defense. What are you going to do about it? You know, that's probably what the Titans are thinking on that side. You know, you're going up against one of the best defensive coordinators this game has probably ever seen. And now you got to go prove it. So how are you going to do it? I know it's backups. I know it's this, whatever it may be, but we'll see. I'm excited too. I just want to throw that in there about Cam Ward.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think he definitely has some arm talent. His pocket presence is something that I'm a little concerned with heading into the NFL. He's got that really cool, lackadaisical sort of approach to the pocket, which I've always said there's a difference between being really cool and collected in the pocket and being oblivious in the pocket. Anyone who remembers how Jameis Winston plays football, Jameis Winston is oblivious in the pocket, which is a lot different. So if Cam can kind of keep that sort of really calm presence and translate it to the NFL, but still be aware of his surroundings and the speed that comes with it, fantastic. If he just kind of sits back there and gets hit, not fantastic. But definitely has some arm talent. But yeah, outside of like Trayvon Walker, you know, you just never hear anyone talk about this first round pick. And Trayvon Walker probably wasn't worth it as like a first overall pick. But I mean, that's still a 10.5 sack a year guy, right? So we'll see how that goes. It'll be fun. I'm excited. I love joint practice. It will be absolute cinema, and we'll get to see both these teams kind of compete pretty aggressively. So I'm excited.
And I know everybody loves to see the fights and, you know, from joint practices, but Todd Bowles is
keep it clean, boys. Keep it clean, boys.
Todd Bowles is your head coach, so he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that things are staying clean. He's not going to pull a Mike Vrabel, go interrupt the fight, get bloodied up in the middle of it. Todd Bowles, just don't do it.
Yeah,
he's who knows what implications he's got in place for if somebody does do it. I'm sure it's something we probably don't even want to know or whatever. It's just not out there. But don't expect too much fireworks when it comes to that. I would assume the Tennessee Titans players probably will, try and start something. But Todd wants his guys to be composed, and hopefully, that's how it is. We don't want any guys doing something stupid, hitting somebody with a helmet on with their bare hand, breaking their hand before the season gets started, and stay away from all the grabbing and all that stuff. So hopefully that's a thing. Hopefully it stays clean. Hopefully it stays relatively injury-free. We do know that injuries are going to happen, period, especially when you're going up against a different team than who you're used to. There's that little added extra passion or whatever you want to call it involved in the game, whether it's practice or not. So hopefully they are able to stay a little bit clean. But before we log off here, River, anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm ready for the Titans. I think we're going from 10 to 12. So we got a banger tomorrow. Let's hope that both teams have fun. I hope the Bucs look good. I hope they can really test their skill set and their defense. I think the defense is the thing I'm most interested in seeing. And maybe Baker Mayfield can wake up feeling dangerous tomorrow.
Yeah.
And,
he's going to bring it. He's going to bring it one way or another. And I'm excited. Honestly, pay attention to those edges. How are these edges going to look against the different?
That's true. That's true. That'll be good.
I think that'll be one area that you can kind of watch and be like, okay, like now we can kind of see what we got here. But yeah, cool. So yeah, there's a note for me. Do it for me, River. I really appreciate you if you would watch the edges tomorrow.
I will do it. I'll do it.
Awesome.
But I don't know if I'll tell you what I see, but I'll just watch them.
Awesome. I'll read your recap, and then I'll know if you took my advice on watching the defensive line. But with that being said, guys, we want to thank you as always for tuning in to Hear the Cannon presented by BucsGameday.com. If you don't already read our content over on BucsGameday.com, head over there, type it in your search bar, head over there. We've got tons of information, tons of content going out. I'm going to be writing a couple pieces tonight that'll go up tomorrow that you'll be able to see, breaking down everything that's coming up, breaking down some interviews as well as press conference stuff, quotes. Everything is over there for you guys as well. If you're watching anywhere else, if you're watching on X, formerly known as Twitter, or Facebook, head over to YouTube. That's where we get most of our content out to you guys. Like, subscribe, turn those notifications on. We truly do appreciate it. That's how you get your questions, your comments, anything else up here on the screen with us on Wednesday nights. With that being said, River, any last words for the people at home?
Fire the cannons.
River likes to whisper it. I don't like to whisper it, but fire the cannons, fellas.